Kia ora, welcome to Central News for Friday the 29th of August 2014. I'm Anne-Marie Case-Miller. In today's news, Hamilton Gardens has been recognised as an important international tourism attraction. The Gardens has been nominated for International Garden of the Year by the World Garden Tourism Council. Previous winners have included the Singapore Botanic Garden and the gardens of Trotmandorf Castle in Italy. The Gardens was nominated by World Garden Tourism Council Committee member Dr. Richard Benfield. Following his visit in 2013, he reported that the Gardens concept of telling the story of gardens is unique in the world and visually spectacular. Dr. Benfield is also on the International Garden Tourism Awards jury. Hamilton Mayor Julie Hardacre says Hamilton Gardens is the most visited tourism attraction in the Waikato, with approximately 1 million visitors each year. She believes the nomination endorses the direction and vision of the Hamilton Gardens strategic plan to create one of the world's greatest gardens and deliver associated benefits to Hamilton City. The Waipa District Council has launched a campaign to encourage ratepayers to have their say as the council begins work on the draft 10-year plan. Mayor of Waipa District Council, Jim Milcreast, explains how people can ensure their voice and ideas are heard.
Well, we've started our process early this year, I suppose, and it's a 3-yearly review of our 10-year plan. So we're encouraging people to go to our Facebook and pick up on issues as they arise. But of course, we've still got the statutory timeframes that people are used to, I suppose, in the sense of making a formal submission. But we're really trying to encourage people to talk to their councillors, look at our local newsprint media, I suppose, the Te Mutukura and Cambridge edition, but trying to encourage people to become involved in the process early so that we know what their views are.
In sport, and Waikato took on Taranaki and Hamilton on Wednesday night and were blown away 46-17, with Taranaki leaving Waikato Stadium with the Ryan Wheeler Memorial Trophy in hand and the Mulus stinging from the record loss. Waikato now face another quick turnaround with an away match against North Harbour tomorrow night, while Bay of Plenty steamers head to Taranaki on Sunday. Bay of Plenty Regional Council is working to remove the wrecked pilot house cutter Checkmate from Motuhora, Whale Island, near Whakatane, where it grounded last Friday. The Regional Council declared the boat a wreck earlier this week, and salvage of the 47-foot ferro cement vessel is likely to cost about $50,000. Work started a few days ago and is likely to be completed by the end of the weekend. More than 450 litres of diesel was pumped from the boat last Saturday after it ran aground. The boat's skipper said the boat's engine blew up when salt water got into it. The Eastern Bay Harbour Master is working closely with the salvage contractor, Coast Guard, Whakatane District Council and Ngāti Awa on progress. Let's take a look at the marine forecast now. Raglan expect a northeast of 25 knots, rising to 35 knots with a very rough sea. Moderate southwest swell with high tide at 28 minutes past midnight tomorrow morning. Bay of Plenty, northeast of 25 knots, rising on Sunday to 35 knots with a very rough sea. High tide 13 minutes past 10 Saturday morning. Still to come on Central News, we speak with Waikato University rowing coach Ross Tong, discover more about volunteering for victim support and find out more about the Great New Zealand Food Show. That's next on Central News. Kia ora, welcome back to Central News. The Coromandel electorate spans from the Coromandel Peninsula down to Katikati, incorporating Thames, Pāroa, Waihi and Te Aroha. Amandus recently spoke with Scott Simpson about the diverse electorate.
You are the MP of the Coromandel electorate. How big is it? What areas does that actually cover?
Well, it's actually much bigger than most people expect. Often when I'm talking to audiences away from our region and I say, where do you think the Coromandel is? They say, oh, well, it's Thames and North. It's just the peninsula. Well, actually, that's true. It is the peninsula, but it also takes in that whole area of the Hauraki Plains, so Ngātia, Paeroa, Te Aroha, almost to Morrinsville Township, including Manuaru, Waitoa, Waihau. Beautiful area, rich, productive farming land, of course. And then over the Kaimais to Waihi Beach, and then south to Katikati. And Katikati is practically a suburb of Tauranga. So the electorate is about 4,500 square kilometres, and it's just about to get bigger because as a result of boundary changes at the last census, the electorate is going to grow on the other side of the Firth of Thames around Kaiawa and into Mangatangi. So it gets even bigger.
What electorate do they belong to now then?
Those people around Kaiawa and Mangatangi have currently been in the Waikato electorate, but come election 2014, they'll be part of the Coromandel electorate.
Exactly. So how do you deal with all the different communities that make up your electorate?
Well, I'm on the road pretty much 7 days a week, and so I do a lot of travelling. It's not very good necessarily for my carbon footprint, but I do a lot of driving, and each of those communities is quite diverse and quite different. For instance, Whitianga doesn't have an awful lot in common with Ngatea, and Ngatea doesn't necessarily have a lot in common with Katikati, and Katikati doesn't have much in common with Coromandel Town. So each of those communities are richly diverse. Each has their own opportunities and their own challenges. I enjoy each of them, and sometimes, this might sound a bit unusual, but I liken them to ice creams, all with different flavours, but all tasting really good.
So I know that the Hauraki Rail Trail is complete at the moment, yes, but there is going to be further advancements on that. Tell me about that.
Well, the Hauraki Rail Trail has been an outstanding success. It was part of the Prime Minister's initiative to have a nationwide cycleway, and we were very fortunate to get on the grid early. So you can cycle now from Thames to Paeroa, Paeroa to Te Aroha, and then from Paeroa to Waihi through the Kranghaki Gorge. It is just spectacularly beautiful. Part of the reason it's been so successful so quickly is because, of course, we've got the big population bases of Auckland, Hamilton and Tauranga very nearby. So we get a lot of people, a lot of families come just for the weekend and stay maybe the weekend, stay overnight, have a meal in a restaurant, coffees and cafes, and ride the cycle trail. That's very good for our local economy. It's very good for our local businesses.
Now, have you done it yourself?
I've done every section of it except from Paeroa to Te Aroha, and that's my intention to do that after the election.
Victim Support is a community organisation that helps people hurt by crime and other trauma. Working closely with the New Zealand Police, they provide emotional and practical support every day of the year and would like to expand their current team. Cheryl Crawford, Service Coordinator for Victim Support, spoke with me recently and explained how Victim Support began in New Zealand.
Back in 1990, a police officer in Gisborne realised that there was nothing in place for victims in the justice system and was concerned that the offender was getting all the help and acknowledgement for him or her, and he thought it was a bit unfair that victims were being left to fend for themselves, which is what was happening. So he got his head together with a few other people and they formulated the start of Victim Support, and it slowly spread throughout the country, and now we're right through New Zealand from Northcote to the Bluff.
What's the role of Victim Support in the community?
Victim Support is a 24-hour, 7 days a week, 365 days a year service for crisis intervention for victims of crime and trauma.
And what does that mean?
It means that volunteers are available to help victims who have been the victims of a crime or trauma, and it also could be someone that's been involved in a civil defence type incident. Like the Christchurch earthquakes, our volunteers were well involved with looking after people in the emergency centres for that. It means that we can go to their home, we can help support them until such times as we can help them put other things in place to get them through the situation.
What types of experiences have people suffered that Victim Support help?
We have dealt with victims who have been victims of homicide, suicide, fatal motor vehicle accidents, drownings.
Quite hard work, isn't it?
It is quite hard work, and it does take us, as we've talked before, a special type of person to look after people like this.
And of course there's different types of support. Victim Support doesn't just listen, do they?
No, it's not just listening. I mean, initially that is what our role is when we're dealing with people at the start of an incident, but we are able to provide advocacy and to ensure that their rights are upheld as victims. We're able to support them through the court service. We're able to provide financial assistance for people that have been victims of serious crime.
You're available on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Do you have enough volunteers?
Never enough volunteers. I've got a great group of volunteers who do a great job, but they could do with some helpers. I mean, they do give a lot of time.
Is it rostered or on-call work?
You're on a roster, and the roster works around the volunteers' availability. And when you're on the roster, you're expected to be available to be called out at any time, 24/7.
How much training is given?
When they come to victim support, they're given what we call initial training, which is over 2 full weekends, which gives them all the tools that they need to start the job. Once they've done that training, they become an intern and have a buddy that they go with to call outs to learn on the job. And then there's ongoing training that happens every month for volunteers. So we keep them up to speed and keep them aware of the new things that are happening.
To find out more about volunteering for victim support, phone 0800 Volunteer. That's 0800 865 868. Still to come, we find out more about the Great New Zealand Food Show. And up next, speak with Ross Tong about the Galahar Great Race. That's next on Central News. Kia ora, welcome back to Central News. The Galahar Great Race is just over 2 weeks away, and New Zealand's best young rowing talent is set to compete in the iconic Hamilton race, which is now in its 13th year. Men's coach Ross Tong has selected and coached the illustrious crew for the past 8 years. He spoke with me recently and explained why he thinks this year's crew is the strongest yet.
On paper, it's strongest. It's really simply because we've got most of the athletes have rowed at under 23 level. So, but with experience on the river, there's only 4 of last year's crew in the race. So, and the coxswain, which is vital. So, on paper, yes, very strong as the athletes, but with the river experience, not that strong. So, it's still quite exciting.
The Galahar Great Race has become an iconic event in Hamilton, and we hear a lot about the fact that the race is against the current, that it's a long race. It's totally different to lake racing, isn't it?
Absolutely. Iconic. It's a fantastic event. It's a rowing event that is unlike anything else. It was similar to the boat race over in England, but they row with the current. Against the current makes different, where you can be a metre offline and you can be 5-10 seconds slower. It's huge. It's on the river, on the Lake Karapiro. It's fair. It's, as we mentioned earlier, it's a gentleman's sport. Fair racing, you all the best. On the river, it's not. It's unfair. It's a pub fight almost. It's a brawl. And the more we can get out there, more supporters we can get out there. With the way the river's been developed, and the cycleways now alongside, there's some fantastic vantage points all the way along with the bridges, with the big screen at the finish. But I know the athletes, you get the course rowing where you can't hear the crowds. Even Olympics, world champs, you're in the zone, you're focused on that, and so you don't hear the crowds. Whereas this, you're so close to the crowds, and because you need to be aware of what's happening around you, instead of just thinking about your boat. You've got to think what the other crews are doing. So that's where the supporters on the bank can make a huge difference, and those cowbells ringing, it's fantastic for the boys.
You're absolutely correct. It's a spectator sport, and it's a real battle on the river. How big a part is the spectators to the crew, and where do you think that the best place is for the spectators to stand?
Oh, look, all the way along the course, right at the start at Ann Street there, you can get right down really close to the action. The crew right in against the bank, you're probably less than 4 or 5 metres from them. On a normal rowing course, you can't do that. It is a battle. And the more the spectators get involved, particularly for us, the better it is. So the more people we can get down there all the way through with the cycleways now that have been developed, it's just fantastic. And every vantage point is, if we can fill that with people with cowboys yelling and screaming, it helps the guys. Just do whatever's necessary to win.
This is your 9th year as coach. Why is this year so special for you?
They raced for the Harry Martin Trophy, and Harry was a pretty special guy for me. He was one of the coaches I had, and probably dare I say my first coach was my father. So I shouldn't say Harry was the most important one, but he was. He probably brought me along the furthest, and he unfortunately passed away with cancer. And so that's hence we raced for the Harry Martin Trophy. This year, my sister-in-law has unfortunately been diagnosed with cancer. So for me, it's pretty special that we're rowing for an event that was Harry is iconic to Waikato, iconic to Hamilton, and this event. And so for my sister-in-law, just to do something like that and to be involved is pretty special for me.
What do you know about the competition, Harvard and Melbourne?
Harvard have got 2 or 3 New Zealand guys in it. Don't think they've rowed on the river, hopefully. Look, I don't know a lot about them. Melbourne have been here before, came and got beaten. And that, I know as an athlete and as a coach, that's never nice. So I'm sure they'll come back stronger and better. Harvard, yeah, look, they're got a rowing dynasty over there, which is very strong.
And they got beaten last time they were here, 2007. So do you think there's a score to settle?
Absolutely. Look, they did get beaten, and I suppose this is where the river makes it exciting. They were a very, very strong crew, and I think had they raced on the lake, they probably would have beaten us. But that's where the crowd came out that day, and it was fantastic. And the river, and we could put ourselves in a position where we ended up beating them. So all bodes well for another exciting race this year.
Is there one secret weapon that you've got? Or I suppose you can't tell us if it's secret, but what's up your sleeve? On the day, it's all going to be happening. What are you going to pull out?
Look, the river changes all the time. It ebbs and flows all the time. The basic movement doesn't change of the river, but in saying that, I get out the morning of the race and we actually don't make our final decisions until probably an hour or so before the race. But in saying that, the coxswain and the stroke still, that could change. So it's I suppose a big part of it's being adaptable. And as I said, it's not just about your boat, it's what's happening around you and everything else. So our big secret weapon is home crowd.
The Galahar Great Race takes place on Waikato River on Sunday the 15th of September. For all the racing details, go to thegreatrace.co.nz. Up next, we speak with Michelle Connell about the Great New Zealand Food Show. Kia ora, welcome back to Central News. The Great New Zealand Food Show makes its debut at Mystery Creek on the 6th and 7th of September. Billed as Hamilton's premier food show, there'll be something for everyone's palate, as well as cooking classes and a combination of food and fashion. I spoke with Michelle Connell from Classic Events, who explained how the whole weekend is about food and friends, and that it's not just about tastings.
No, it's not, and I think that's the beauty, is sometimes some of these shows you just tend to have little bits of tastings here, there and everywhere, and that can get a little bit tiresome. So this way you can, if you like a particular wine or food, you can buy wine by the glass and food by the plate, sit down and enjoy lunch with whoever you've gone to the show with, and it just rounds off your day.
Now, what's happening with the Heathcote Appliances Cooking Theatre? Tell me about that.
That's probably the heart of the show. That's a big, with a grandstand, and that is really our big celebrity chefs will be there cooking a variety of dishes, 12 dishes over the 6 days, 12 demonstrations. So that's ranging from Annabelle White, Nikki Wicks, Matt McLean with New Zealand Beef and Lamb, Eugene Hamilton, Julie Busso, Jordan and Nikki Shearer from MasterChef New Zealand. So there's a variety of chefs all cooking over the weekend.
And the tickets for this are included in the ticket price already?
It is. It's all part of the show entry.
The Southend Mystery Bag Cook-Off competition promises to be very entertaining. Tell me about it.
Well, it's based on the UK Ready Steady Cook. So it's where two celebrity chefs battle head to head to cook the best dish in 30 minutes, and they're provided with a mystery bag of ingredients involving the members of the public who go and purchase those, so no one knows what's in those and who can come up with the best dish in 30 minutes.
You've got a huge array of exhibitors on show as well.
Well, we've got over 140 different exhibitors, ranging from kitchen appliances down to cheese, wineries, there's breweries, right across the whole spectrum of food, really. It's a total food experience.
And people can be hands-on at the show with the Wintec cooking classes.
They are, and that's a real differentiation in the show to other shows. So book online for those because they're filling up quick, but there's lots and lots of different classes or techniques that you may have always wanted to learn that you can actually incorporate and learn at the cooking classes.
And people need to buy tickets for this one.
Yes, we do encourage that. They're already getting heavily booked.
And who are the guest chefs going to be?
There's Nikki and Jordan Shearer from MasterChef New Zealand. They were contestants there. There's also Verena and Tanisha, who are also MasterChef contestants. There is Vanessa Hudson, gluten-free pasta, and Tanya's Thai cooking classes, pumpkin ravioli, lots and lots of things.
Tickets for the Great New Zealand Food Show are available online now at greatnewzealandfoodshow.co.nz or at the gate on show weekend. Let's take a look at the weather for the weekend now. Saturday, expect a high cloud in Hamilton with easterly strengthening and a high of 14 degrees with a low of 8. Around the Waikato, Paeroa 14 your high with a low of 8, 12 in Matamata and a low of 10. Te Awamutu 14 for Saturday with a low of 9 and Tokorua 12 and a low of 7 degrees. Heading over the Kaimai Ranges and Tauranga, expect a mostly cloudy Saturday with drizzle at times. Easterlies expected and a high of 15 degrees, a low of 9. And around the Bay, Te Puke, your high 13 degrees with 9 your low. Looking out at Sunday, Hamilton, occasional rain, easterlies and a high of 14 degrees with a low of 9. Paeroa, 15 your high for Sunday with a low of 9, 13 for Matamata and a low of 10, 14 degrees for Te Awamutu, down to 9 overnight, and Tokorua, 11 your high for Sunday with a low of 8. Tauranga, rain developing on Sunday, fresh easterlies and a high of 15 degrees with 10 overnight, and Te Puke expect 13 with a low of 10. And that's Central News for today, Friday the 29th of August 2014. Thank you for joining me this week. Make sure you join our Facebook page and let us know of news in your community. Have a fantastic weekend. Hilary joins you again next week. I'm Anne-Marie Case-Miller. Ka kite anō.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.